It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 19th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 1st, that we suspend the rules for the purposes of introducing Courtesy Resolution 189. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Alderwoman from the 19th, you are now recognized on the special order of the day.
Thank you very much. Resolution number 189 deserves really no introduction because it has been in the history of the city of St. Louis for over 75 years based on the movements and decisions that were made, some of them supported by law, some of them supported by that's just what we want to do. And it was an atrocity against a community of Native American, because a lot of people don't know there was a lot of Native Americans that lived in that area too, but most especially African Americans, to relocate them, dislocate them at will. These were people who not only had homes, they had businesses, they had relationships, their schools were well taken care of, they took care of their children, and you didn't have a lot of crime there. That was another thing that we couldn't understand about that era. But we have a committee of people who have chosen to be determined for that area to be recognized and the history be told in the truest form possible. And for those of you who are present from the Mill Creek Valley Committee, I see Judith Arnold standing over here. Ruby Bonner, I think you're here. Barbara Martin, I see you're here. Is there anybody else here that I missed? I know Vivian Gibson was supposed to come over. But there's a long list of people who we will be recognizing as we move forward. Given the knowledge and the history of this, we know that we are beginning to acknowledge our wrong. And I want to give recognition to the St. Louis Soccer Park because they are providing a monument to honor it on Market Street. Okay. I want to also honor Harris Stowe because they're also recognizing what happened and they're going to have a monument on Market Street. I want to also recognize the Great River Greenway because they are looking at and applying recognition to this atrocity, and others will do the same. But what we want to do is make sure that the actual identification is noted for history, and we want to make sure that the history is told at any time, in any place that it is available to us. We must know our history so that we won't make that mistake again. I asked for you, I hope that you had a chance to read the resolution, and just for the sake of the record, because this is so important, Madam President, can it be read into the record, please?
Yes, Madam Clerk, if you would please read Resolution 189 into the record.
Whereas the members of the City of St. Louis Board of Aldermen hold in high esteem those neighborhoods that have contributed greatly to the history and culture of this city. And whereas the Mill Creek Valley neighborhood was a center of African American life in St. Louis, home to over 20,000 residents and 800 businesses, and whose inhabitants included Josephine Baker, Scott Joplin, and Madam C.J. Walker. And whereas the heart of the Mill Creek Valley neighborhood was approximately 450 acres and roughly bounded by Grand Boulevard on the west, Olive Street on the north, 20th Street on the east, and the railroad tracks on the south. And whereas in the late 1950s, virtually every building in that geography was raised in what was then termed blight removal and urban renewal. And over 20,000 residents, mostly African American, were displaced from their homes, businesses, and community. And whereas the City of St. Louis, in partnership with Harris Stowe University, the City Park Soccer Stadium, the Great Rivers Greenway, Brick Line Greenway, former residents of the neighborhood, and other stakeholders wishes to identify and recognize Mill Creek Valley and those who live there, and remind and educate the citizens of St. Louis as to the injustice that forced removal. And whereas it is fitting and proper that the St. Louis Board of Aldermen should pause in its diverse legislative duties and responsibilities in order to recognize the enduring spirit of Mill Creek Valley and its contributions to the city's history and culture. Now there be it resolved by this Honorable Board of Aldermen of the City of St. Louis that we pause in our deliberations to commemorate the history and culture of the Mill Creek Valley neighborhood and the disproportionate and unjust impact on African American St. Louisans due to its demolition. We further direct the clerk of this board to spread a copy of this resolution across the minutes of these proceedings and to prepare a commemorative copy to the end that it may be presented at the time and place deemed appropriate by the sponsor. Introduced on this 10th day of February 2023 by the Honorable Marlene Davis, Alderwoman 19th Ward. Adopted this day, February 10, 2023.